I want to make sure this is clear because I am not saying psychotic break as an insult. I am not trying to disparage this person. Here's an excerpt from the LA Times. One night he tried to knock himself out, took his knuckles to his face and pounded over and over until bruises formed. 4 days after, he sat in a lawn chair on the porch, ashamed, his face sore, and then he heard a voice. You don't have to feel this way. It was a small voice, barely discernible, but it kept echoing in his head a way out. It was as if something in my brain turned on. The agonizing voice saying, no, you're not. No, you can't just switched and became, no, you can't just switched and became very gentle and loving. Oh, maybe I'm trans. Why don't I explore that? Within weeks, he'd schedule a Zoom consultation with a doctor to discuss top surgery. The procedure was scheduled for November. A month later, he announced to fans on Instagram who have known him since the release of Juno 13 years prior that his name was Elliot. I want to stress this. A psychotic episode where Ellen Page, at the time, by Ellen, beating herself in the face until her face was physically damaged, hearing a voice then saying, maybe you're trans, within weeks. We're not talking about a long period of psychological assistance and medical evaluation. Within weeks, where is the point in the story where Page's friends intervened and said, 5150. This person has been self-harming to an extreme degree, is having severe emotional distress and needs help. Instead, there was no assistance. There was no help. Page called a doctor within weeks, and they were like, we will give you surgery on your chest.
Tim, you're not suggesting that people that are trans have mental health problems.
No, I'm suggesting that
I'm suggesting that, but
Elliot Page.
That's ridiculous.
But
come on, Josh.
No, hold on. There's a distinction. This is important here. Some people have mental health problems and they'll claim to be trans. And you need to get to the root of what is the mental health reason behind a person's statements or actions. If there is someone who is suffering from gender dysphoria as defined by the DSM-5, that is very distinct from someone who's having a psychotic break and punching themselves in the face over and over again. So the problem I think we're seeing is with someone like Dylan Mulvaney, who I believe suffers, and I'm not a doctor, narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, histrionics, all of those things. They then say, if Dylan Mulvaney says they're trans, there's no diagnosis be damned. There's a multitude of mental disorders and illnesses that can outwardly manifest as a person claiming they're the opposite gender. There is a distinction between gender dysphoria. A person looks in a mirror, they feel a sense of anxiety and dread over how they perceive their body. It's not even about gender in that regard. There's body dysmorphia, there's weight issues like anorexia, bulimia, etc. And then there are people who are outright psychotic. And that's not an insult. There are people who can't discern illusion from reality or imagination from reality. If both of these people come to you and say, I'm not actually a man, I'm a woman, and there's no effort to actually provide medical assistance, you are not going to help either of them. You're going to take someone like Elliot Page. Look, this is if you're 36 and you're beating yourself in the face over and over again, that is not gender dysphoria. Okay, and a doctor needs to come in and say this is self-harm, this is anxiety, panic, psychotic breaks, physical violence. This person needs help and loving care. Instead, Page, who is clearly not in the right state of mind to understand what's wrong with them. I want to stress this. If you saw a person in an alley beating themselves in the face, and then that person with no medical assistance called a gender surgeon, a gender surgery doctor, and said, please cut off my breast, and the doctor said, you got it, we'd be going, whoa, we need diagnoses here.
And I just want to commend you. This is one conservative point that I will agree with that you're espousing, that the conservatives make, which is that we should treat mental health problems. I feel like often the left just kind of indulges people's beliefs, whether they're right or not. And the right actually wants, sometimes, I don't like agreeing with them, but sometimes they actually like treating people's mental health problems and making sure that they're okay. So I do commend you, Tim, on that conservative point that we should actually address severe mental health problems. Well, as a mental health advocate, I just wanted to...
And this is legit, right? So let's take a look at other body dysmorphic disorders. Anorexia.
There's bigorexia too, where the bodybuilders get so big their heart explodes.
Yep, they keep working out, they keep eating protein, or they take steroids because they feel like they're weak. They look in the mirror and they see scrawny, and their brains are not showing, they're not understanding reality. Anorexia, how does it manifest? Do people who are of average weight, who feel like they're fat, beat themselves to the point where they're bloody, and then no, they stop eating? So when we're looking at body dysmorphic disorders, it typically, at least when you look at the literature and the stories, I'm sure there are exceptions, it manifests in a way that alters the body in some fashion. The obvious, again, being anorexia, they stop eating. When you look at the story of Page, I mean, the news reporting Daily Caller, Elliot Page says voice in her head told her she was trans if she tried to punch herself to death. Do anorexic people look in the mirror and see themselves as fat and just start beating themselves mercilessly? I'm sure there are some exceptions, but typically body dysmorphic disorders result in people trying to alter their body. Another example is general body dysmorphic disorder. There are people who want to remove their hands, for instance, and they'll go to doctors and say, my hand is not part of my body. It feels like there's a foreign object attached to my body. I need it removed. And they'll say, absolutely not. We will not cut your hand off. Some of these people have been known to stage accidents where they will flip a car or have a car, they'll put a car on like a jack and then pop the jack so it falls and crushes their arm. So they force the doctors. Yep, there have been. So that is self-harm in a way that manifests the body change they desired. There's also individuals who self-harm related to their gender. There's a distinction here. I think when you look at a story of Elliot Page, you can see how this is not proper healthcare for individuals who are suffering. I think it's fair to say when you look at Dylan Mulvaney is a great example. Dylan Mulvaney, I believe, got plastic surgery for the same reason Madonna did, right? You want to be in the limelight, you want the attention, and you'll do whatever it takes to get it. So Madonna, of course, is a very old woman, still wants to look a certain way and be in the spotlight. So Madonna goes and gets this ridiculous surgery, and it makes her face look in a way that many people criticize. Dylan Mulvaney is doing the same thing. There is this knee-jerk reaction to assume if someone says they're gender dysphoric, diagnosis be damned, just do whatever they want, even though there's a plethora of either illnesses or disorders that could lead to someone saying that.
I think when people, you brought up anorexia or anorexic, we don't tell them, yes, you really are too fat and you should lose more weight. We treat the problem, right? And when people are schizophrenic and say the FBI is after me and that man's stalking me in the bushes, we don't go, yes, you are correct. We don't indulge their delusions. And so I take offense when the world and the medical community indulges people's delusions, and I don't like that. But I'm grateful that they respect my gender identity and my right to...
Josh, you're a great actor. I said at the beginning, you're winning this debate. You're doing well today. I thought...
I just think the onus is on the medical community to treat mental illness and mental health problems, and if someone's anorexic or schizophrenic, they say, no, you're wrong, and we're going to help you and get you treatment.
And they lock you up because I know, they'll...
Yeah, but I'm very grateful that, they are there. The medical community allows me to just be me and to express myself at the same time, so I don't want to look like I'm overly criticizing them, but yeah.
Well, we got about 10 minutes, but where do you guys think we end up in 5-10 years?
Personally, I do think about this a lot, and whether we want to say Amin Khalifa, is hermaphrodite or whatever, I do think, Tim, this is what scares me, and we talk about the pendulum swinging back, there are going to be more children or parents of children that encourage their kids to transition to have an advantage in sports. I think we're going to see that boom in the next 5 or 10 years, because I would have never guessed that there would be somebody with XY chromosomes winning an Olympic gold medal. So I don't know if we ever get more conservative and there's, the trans movement slows down, but I do think the sports angle is only going to get just more prevalent.
As a trans woman, I don't like gender ideology or gender identities being pushed on kids. And so I think there will be pushback the more and more children are being drawn into this, usually by the very far left. Again, I'm a libertarian trans woman. But the more and more children are brought into it, the more and more pushback there's going to be. And so I really think that we need to just let kids be kids. And it doesn't help my movement that there's parts of it and extremist parts of it that are trying to involve children in it, and that is not okay, and I don't like that, and I think that's anathema to freedom and to what this country should stand for.
And I agree with you, and I just want to make this point. Have you seen this meme, Tim, where they have a public school and then they have a prison, and they show the cafeteria in the prison, they show the cafeteria in the public school, it looks the same, and it's a meme. So I guess my point is, I think we should protect kids, but I don't think kids are protected at all. I think they're the most vulnerable, and people take advantage of their vulnerability, and that's why this movement's only going to get worse.
Well, in public schools, the more and more extreme public schools are getting with the far left narrative, the more and more parents are going to be yanking them out. I was homeschooled my whole life, Tim. I don't know if you know that. My parents took my brothers out of public school when they were in third grade and homeschooled me from the time I was able to go to school. I never went to public school except for 1 year when I begged my parents as a typical high schooler, please, I want to go to experience public school and go to prom and homecoming. They let me go for 1 year. It was miserable. I was bullied.
It did suck the 1 year.
It was terrible because I didn't know the people. I hadn't been in school with them since childhood. I'd been in this conservative, homeschooled, group from cadre of individuals from a very small age.
Is that how your parents did it, in like group teaching kind of?
It was individual with just me and my brothers and my mother teaching us, but once a week we would meet at a place called La Casa. I'm not sure why it was called that. Obviously, it's Spanish for the house, where other homeschooled kids in the area would come. So I still keep in contact with a lot of the kids I was homeschooled with in La Casa, but it was just my mom teaching me and my brothers.
Cool. I bet you're really close to the mom. You're obviously very smart. You went to law school.
I went to law school, and my brothers both have post-bachelor degrees and undergrad degrees, so we all did well, even though our mother homeschooled us. And I think a lot of people are going to turn to alternative methods of education the more and more the public schools become this disaster that they are. And I, again, as a libertarian, I think that's good, because I don't want my kids being taught patently false things by public schools. And so that's just going to keep happening. There's going to keep being pushback.